In his Independence Day speech this year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi celebrated his government's decision to scrap Article 370 by saying, "Today I can say with pride that every Indian can say we are one nation, one constitution." Well, he couldn't have been more wrong. And I will show you how by presenting just 3 exhibits: the words of a senior Modi government minister, the judgment of a high court, and the provisions of the country's Juvenile Justice Act. The evidence I will give you will make it clear that we may be one nation, one constitution, but Modi and his colleagues don't believe Kashmir and the Kashmiris are a part of it. They are subjecting the people of Kashmir to special rules and laws that they would not dare to impose on people in the rest of India. Worse, a lot of what the government is doing is clearly illegal under that one constitution of ours. So let's start with the words of the minister. This is what Prakash Javadekar, who holds the important information and broadcasting portfolio, had to say at a public event on September the 2nd.
सबसे बड़ा सजा क्या होती है? किसी से संपर्क न हो, किसी से बात न कर सकते हो और आपके पास कम्युनिकेशन का कोई साधन न हो, ये सबसे बड़ी सजा हो सकती है.
So here you have a minister telling us that the biggest or worst form of punishment is to not let people communicate with each other when they do not have the tools to communicate with each other. Now, Javadekar is an intelligent man, so I'm amazed that it didn't even occur to him that the situation he was describing fit Kashmir to a T. After all, the people of Kashmir have been banned from accessing the internet or mobile telephony from the night of August 4th, and thus deprived of their tools of communication with each other and the outside world. When The Wire and other media platforms pointed out this irony, the ministry issued a ridiculous clarification. Quote, "It is observed that sections of the media have taken a quote of Union Minister Shri Prakash Javadekar out of context and unnecessarily attempted to link the situation in Jammu and Kashmir region with his comments about the significance of communication," unquote. Now, this was an utterly silly clarification, since Javadekar was not withdrawing or qualifying his comment that being unable to communicate is the biggest form of punishment. Nor did he deny the fact that the people of Kashmir are not being able to communicate. So what was out of context about us concluding that the Kashmiris are indeed being subjected to the worst form of punishment? Now, before someone claims that what Javadekar said was only his personal view, I would like to show you a recent judgment of the Kerala High Court that says categorically that access to the internet and telephone services is actually a fundamental right via the right to education as well as the right to privacy under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. In her judgment, Justice P.V. Asha also invoked a resolution of the UN Human Rights Council, which India incidentally also backed, on the promotion, protection and enjoyment of human rights on the internet. Anticipating the security concerns which repressive states invoke to justify the censoring or restricting of access to the net, the resolution called upon, quote, all states to address security concerns on the internet in accordance with their international human rights obligations to ensure protection of freedom of expression, freedom of association, privacy, and other human rights online, including through national, democratic, transparent institutions based on the rule of law in a way that ensures freedom and security on the internet so that it can continue to be a vibrant force that generates economic, social and cultural development," unquote. Now, what the Kerala High Court said was not something surprising. Is there any Indian who would disagree with the proposition that the internet and mobile telephony are essential services and that accessing them is a basic human right? Well, there is this one guy who disagrees.
टेलीफोन की सेवाएं नहीं मिलती है, वो ह्यूमन राइट लगता है. 41,800 लोग मारे गए.
Now we know Amit Shah is the second most powerful man in the country, and so of course he will not be bound by what Prakash Javadekar or the Kerala High Court say. So if he tells us that snapping off internet and phone services is not a human rights violation, it's perhaps best not to argue with him. In any case, he also said in the same speech that there are no restrictions in Kashmir, that the only restrictions are in the minds of those opposed to the government's decision on Article 370. So does he mean internet services have been restored? Perhaps it has been, in his mind. But on the ground, I'm afraid, the people of Kashmir, who are now firmly a part of one nation, one constitution, are still being subject to the biggest form of punishment. Now let me consider Exhibit 3, the Juvenile Justice Act. Section 18 of the Act, as applicable in Jammu and Kashmir, says clearly that the state cannot invoke the preventive detention powers contained in Chapter 8 of the Criminal Procedure Code to detain children. This is important because last month, the J&K police sent a detailed report to the J&K High Court, which in turn passed the same report on to the Supreme Court, as proof that all is well on the juvenile justice front in the land of one nation, one constitution. The report was furnished in response to a petition filed by two respected child rights activists, Shanta Sinha and Inakshi Ganguly, who wanted the Supreme Court to stop what they said was the illegal detention of children in Kashmir since the end of Article 370 on August the 5th. During the last hearing in the Apex Court, Justice R.B. Gavai wanted to close the matter, as 4 judges of the High Court had signed a report to say there had been no cases of illegal detention of children. But since the petitioners' counsel insisted, another date was set. Now, we've already reported in The Wire how the police report contains a blatant lie when it denies any boy by the name of Osaib Altaf had died since August the 5th. We have footage of the boy's funeral and his grieving family, who we visited on 2 occasions. So I don't know how they thought they would get away with this absurd lie. But there is another odd thing about the police report, which we are grateful to Justice Anjana Prakash, a former judge of the Patna High Court, for pointing out in an article that we have published in The Wire today. This is that as many as 75 kids across nearly a dozen police stations in Kashmir were detained under the preventive detention powers of the CRPC, despite the fact that the Juvenile Justice Act explicitly prohibits this. These figures, Justice Prakash writes, demonstrate that either the police is ignorant of the ban on preventive detention contained in Section 18 of the JJ Act, or, despite it, have acted in violation of the law. I will go one step further. What does it mean when 4 High Court judges submit a report to the Supreme Court saying there has been no illegal detention of children and base their claim on a police document that is full of evidence that children have been illegally detained? Could the Juvenile Justice Committee of the J&K High Court actually be ignorant of the fact that the Juvenile Justice Act does not permit children to be held in preventive detention? It's hard to believe that that could be the case. Could it then be that the 4 judges didn't bother to read the document the police had given them? It's possible, I suppose, but given that their own report was destined for the Supreme Court, I doubt whether they would have been so casual. So where does that leave us? Well, we know now, thanks to the police's own documentation, that children in Kashmir have been illegally detained. We also know that the police was so confident about its ability to violate the law that it had no problem supplying evidence of its own illegal behavior to the High Court and the Supreme Court. There is then only one way to square this bizarre circle: to realize that contrary to what Modi assured us, the Kashmiris are sadly not part of one nation, one constitution. And it is futile for them to expect its upholders to speak out for them. For the past few days, we at The Wire have been running a fundraising campaign called 30 Lakhs 30 Days. One of the plans that we hope to finance with your support is the launching of a brand new science website, part of The Wire, and reflecting the same fantastic science coverage that we are rightly famous for, but with a new look and new design. So do support our science endeavor by clicking on the donate button in the link below. Thank you for watching.